From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Monday, August 4th, and here are today's headlines. The Scott administration says it likely overestimated the number of Vermonters who will lose health insurance as a result of federal cuts to Medicaid. The administration previously forecast that 45,000 residents could lose their coverage. At a legislative hearing in Montpelier last Thursday, Secretary of Human Services Jenny Samuelson says she now believes that figure is overly pessimistic.
Because we know there are things that we are going to do to mitigate, to plan, and to shift the outcome in order to make sure that individuals who are eligible for Medicaid still have access.
Samuelson says the administration will help people who lose Medicaid coverage transition to private health insurance. Democratic lawmakers and congressional officials say they are skeptical the state will be able to prevent residents from losing coverage. In other healthcare news, Northeastern Vermont Regional Hospital in St. Johnsbury is the latest provider in the state to announce service closures in an effort to lower healthcare costs. The hospital will close their occupational medicine office after September. The office provides urgent care, physicals, drug testing, and PT consultations. Northeastern will also end a partnership with ear, nose, and throat providers in New Hampshire. 5 positions will be eliminated as a result of the changes, that according to a press release. And that's after cutting 3 administrative positions in recent months and offering voluntary early retirement to some staff members. The state has signed off on a plan to use a chemical compound to suppress toxic cyanobacteria blooms on Lake Carmi in Franklin. Scientists with the state say phosphorus in the lake bed is largely to blame. They want to put a chemical compound called alum into the lake to bind with the phosphorus and trap it down deep. That way it can't rise to the surface and cause the blooms. The treatment will be applied by boat from mid-September to November this year. Rob Evans with the Franklin Watershed Committee feels hopeful about the treatment. Still, he says,
this is not a long-term remedy. This is a fix to give us more time to do, the work in the watershed that we need to continue to do.
The state previously tried installing an aeration system, but that didn't work. The alum treatment is expected to last for more than a decade, and the state says it should not hurt other lake life. On a busy summer weekend, Vermont can see roughly 65,000 people throughout its 55 state parks. That's according to State Parks Director Nate McKean. But rainy weather at the start of this summer and the current political discord between the U.S. and Canada have impacted overall park attendance. McKean says the number of Canadian campers is down 70% compared to last summer.
Some of the feedback that we've gotten from Canadian friends when we send out our newsletter, the exchange rate is not in their favor right now, but more importantly, they're just pretty upset with, the tone and some of the rhetoric that happened.
McKean says about 4% fewer Vermonters are camping in state parks compared to last year, and there's been an 11% decline in out-of-state campers. But McKean says there is still plenty of summer to go, and with the improved weather, visits are climbing. Coming up, Vermonters in the know can find buildings you may not realize used to be classic old schoolhouses. Vermont Public's Lola Dufour went on a journey to find some, and we'll go along with her after this. Old schoolhouses in Vermont live on as homes, restaurants, gift shops, and civic buildings. They're everywhere, if you know how to spot them. And Charlie Farrell knows exactly what to look for. Vermont Public's Lola Dufour has the story.
For close to 19 years, Charlie Farrell has been on this quest to find, photograph, and inventory every school in Vermont that's ever been. He drives around Vermont with a road map that he's covered in these little red handwritten X's. Those notations correspond with where he thinks former schoolhouses are. Most of the time, he's lifted their locations from Beers atlases, these historic town maps from the 1870s. It's not a perfect method. He gets skunked a lot. But other times, he strikes gold.
I'm thinking that is a school. It's most definitely a school. Oh, it's even got the school bell out front.
Farrell is a retired middle school teacher and self-described compulsive collector. He set out on this project in 2006 after he discovered a book in his classroom on Vermont's historic inns and taverns.
And I was thumbing through that, and I started asking myself, I wonder if anyone has done this with Vermont schoolhouses. So that prompted me to go to UVM's silver special collections and kind of poke around and see if anyone had done such a thing.
He didn't find what he was looking for there, or in the state's archives, or at the Vermont Historical Society. And so the Vermont Schoolhouse Project was born. Nearly 20 years later, he's got a spreadsheet with over 4,500 entries and over 2,700 photos, although some may be duplicates. He's visited every town in Vermont, but he says he's only done an intensive road search in about 50 of them. His inventory, if ever complete, would therefore represent a unique contribution to the study of Vermont. Plenty of town historians have cataloged their local schools, according to UVM librarian Prudence Doherty. But what Farrell is doing is at an entirely different scale.
As far as I know, Charlie's the first person to really look at the history of all schools on a statewide basis in Vermont.
At least one other person may have attempted a similar feat. At the Vermont Historical Society in Barre, Farrell came upon a trove of some 70 photos from the 1920s. The photographer was Arthur Wentworth Hewitt, who once served as the chair of the State Board of Education.
He was out in I think a Model A, and he would often have his car in the photograph. So I had to smile when I first found this guy. I had to smile because sometimes I have my Prius in the photo, just like he did 100 years ago.
History, of course, repeats itself in more ways than one. Echoes of today's pitched debates about school closures and demographic change are everywhere in Farrell's research binders. One of his favorite stories is about the so-called Pearl School in Grand Isle. Around the turn of the 20th century, the southern part of the island became more populated, so after a close election, local residents decided to move the school.
So they jacked up the building, and they got their log rollers, and they got their oxen, and they rolled the school to its new location. The next day they went to do some work, and the school was gone.
That's right. The school's former neighbors had, in the dead of night, stolen the building and moved it back to what they believed was its rightful place. Vermonters, it seems, have always felt very deeply about their local schools. For Vermont Public, I'm Lola DeFore.
And we're doing our weekly sports report on a Monday today, devoted to the moves made or not made at Major League Baseball's trade deadline late last Thursday. The feeding frenzy was still going on when we taped Friday's episode, but now that the dust has settled, we're going to focus on what we know now as the true second half of the season begins. The most coveted player available, not of the pitching variety, was third baseman Eugenio Suarez, who returns to his old stomping grounds in Seattle, where he played in 2022 and 2023. But he comes back now with 36 home runs under his belt, fifth most in the league, and joins slugging first baseman Josh Naylor to bolster a Mariners lineup that suddenly has the look of an offensive juggernaut to complement one of the best starting rotations in all of baseball. Suarez and Naylor were both dealt by the Arizona Diamondbacks to Seattle, and it's nice to see the Mariners go all in on building a potential title winner this year. The Red Sox are, of course, still the team I most want to see win the World Series, followed by anyone trying to stop the Yankees. But the Mariners are a solid third in my personal ranked choice voting because I love a good underdog, and they are the only team in Major League history that's never made it to the Fall Classic. But they get a solid A-plus grade for the moves they made this year to help end that distinction. Now, you know the New York Yankees were going to go on a shopping spree, and they went to baseball's version of Costco to get deals for good players, the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that has made just about everyone not named Paul Skeens on their roster available for contenders. The Yanks were on the hunt for bullpen help, and boy did they need it. As of last Thursday, the Bronx Bombers still had one of the best offenses in the game, but their relievers had a 6.29 ERA in the month of July, the second worst in baseball next to the hapless Colorado Rockies. But now they've acquired closer David Bednar from Pittsburgh in exchange for two highly touted prospects. The Yanks will happily forfeit a bit of that future for what Bednar brings them now. 17 saves and a sparkling 2.37 earned run average to go along with 51 strikeouts. The command is there too, as he's walked only 10, and both those figures are career bests. And even before swiping Bednar off the shelf, the Yankees had picked up solid middle to late inning relief help with the acquisitions of Jake Bird and Camilo Doval. And while he's nowhere near as good a slugging third baseman as Suarez, the Yankees addressed a weakness at the hot corner by plucking Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies, plus some help in the outfield with Austin Slater. That's just until megastar Aaron Judge is able to come back 100% healthy from his current stint on injured reserve. The Yankees have been humbled over the past month by the team that overtook them for first place in the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays, but these moves indicate they are serious about either catching the Bluebirds or being ready for them in the playoffs, and the Yankees get a solid A grade for their deadline wheeling and dealing. Now, the Pinstripers' crosstown rivals have been active as well, as expected from a legit World Series contender. The New York Mets gave up 3 prospects to the Baltimore Orioles in exchange for veteran outfielder Cedric Mullins, who will provide elite-level defense, and they hope a bit more pop in the lineup, as Mets center fielders this year have just 4 home runs combined compared with the 15 that Mullins has launched himself this season. The move also allows Jeff McNeil to concentrate on his regular position at second base instead of platooning in center. But what the team from Queens really did to improve was bolster a bullpen that already had a lights-out closer in Edwin Diaz and now adds serious power arms even before getting to the 9th inning after acquiring Ryan Helsley and Gregory Soto. Add to that arsenal submarine-style sinker pitcher Tyler Rogers, who has an ERA under 2 and will be especially effective when hitters have to switch their timing from his 80 miles per hour offerings to the upper 90s fastballs rifled by those other arms in late-game situations. The Mets are for real, and they earn an A for their moves off the field to be even better on it. So, we turn to the Boston Red Sox, who were also supposed to focus on improving their pitching depth as Thursday's deadline neared, and they kind of did. Truth is, they just tinkered around the edges with 2 deals that aren't going to get Wally doing any victory dances on top of the green monster. They started a couple of days prior to the deadline by signing Steven Matz to a deal. Matz spent 6 years mostly as a starter with the New York Mets, but this year he's operated out of the bullpen with the St. Louis Cardinals, who sent the lefty to Boston in exchange for minor league first base prospect Blaze Jordan. Now, Matz does have veteran experience and decent numbers out of the pen this year. He's got an ERA of 3.44, and most importantly, he's held left-handed batters to a 179 average, so expect manager Alex Cora to turn to Matz quite a bit when tough lefties come to the plate. But that move felt like an appetizer before a much bigger entree, and here's where the Red Sox left fans feeling like they didn't get quite enough to eat. They acquired starter Dustin May from the LA Dodgers in exchange for another young prospect, and the price paid is fine as Boston has a surplus of young talent in the farm system. But I think they could have dug a bit deeper into the loam to lure away a better pitcher. May has an ERA that's flirting a little bit too close to 5 runs this season for my comfort, and he's nowhere near a real number 2 or 3 top of the rotation starter like Mitch Keller of the Pirates would be, and he was on my wish list radar. Prying Keller from the Bucks may have meant dealing a fan favorite like Jarren Duran or Romy Gonzalez, and while it's nice to still have those 2 in the fold, the glut of too many outfielders means more platooning the rest of the way, and then hoping the right guy is in at the right time. With all the moves other teams vying for the 3 wildcard slots to the playoffs have made, the Red Sox have only mildly improved their pitching depth. And while they have shown through a strong month of July that they are perhaps good enough to sneak into the postseason for the first time in 4 years with the team they've got now, the squad they have now doesn't look strong enough to get past the opening rounds of the playoffs, much less vie for a pennant. Got to give a C- for the non-moves made by Boston. And if the edict from team owners was to be cautious due to money concerns or to hold on to their oversupply of prospects, that grade drops to a D for disappointment. Here's hoping I'm wrong. Still, the home stretch for the regular season should be a wild ride, so we'll hold on and see what's in store. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld, Lexi Krupp, Abigail Giles, and Nina Keck. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, and I'll talk to you soon.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.